Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origins of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 13. Today we are talking about the Wasp. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee, and my co-host today is...
I'm Joshua.
So today we were talking about the Wasp, and it's, again, one of the unseen mechs, and we are going to kick the can down the road and talk about it on a episode where we have many less models to talk about, because this one's not a short one. So the general design quirks of this mech are: it is easy to maintain, it has an extended torso twist, and it is ubiquitous, which are all positive traits.
Yeah, for a 20-tonner, this mech has got a few things going for it.
One of which is speed. So with the battle mech cementing its position as the king of the battlefield, this left the more conventional arms of the military to support the new growing battle mech divisions. This arrangement was completely acceptable to the Terran Homogenes brass, but that was until the march was stolen on them by the creation of the Larian's Commando. With this, the Terran government realized their shortcomings and started to rectify this by building a scout mech of their own from the ground up, with the philosophy of it being a highly mobile reconnaissance mech. General Mechanics bid for the contract, hoping to expand their visibility and market share because they hadn't taken part up until this point. They added jump jets to the design and threw money at it to make it work. Despite gathering a think tank called the Hive to tackle the problem, they were not able to completely remove all the issues. They won the contract, but it would take another decade and hundreds of Wasps and mech warriors suffering accidents, injuries, and deaths to gather the data they needed to resolve all the issues.
Yeah, it's one of those biting off more than you can chew type situations.
Actually, looking at my notes here, the Wasp is the first mech designed to jump. All other models have had them added after the prototype. So this is the first jumping mech we have.
Yeah, I guess the hegemony thought the cost was worth it.
Well, they paid it regardless.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one great thing about having a well-integrated military-industrial complex with an excessive amount of money and not enough safeguards, shall we say.
That's one way to put it. So the WSP-1, the prototype, was introduced in 2464, and it was initially designed as an anti-tank unit on Mars, is where the development took place. And it has a medium laser and a movement of 585, and not a lot of armor.
This is where we get into that interesting, if the AC 5 and 5 points of damage is your main battle tank's main weapon of the era, then having a medium laser means you're shorter range, but you're still hitting as hard as that main battle tank cannon for a much smaller, lighter package.
Yeah, for the era, it definitely packs a good punch.
Yeah, I think it's really kind of lost in translation because we're playing a game where, Hunchbacks have two of those and an AC 20, and, you're playing with the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really playing with the front line generalist units that you would actually see in most conflict scenarios. That's why this thing feels so bad, especially when you compare it to the Commando.
See, I don't think it feels bad. I just feel like it wasn't designed for combat. Like, it was designed to be a scout primarily. It wasn't meant to engage unless in ambush tactics or overwhelming numbers or force, So it's not flashy and it doesn't pop on the battlefield, but it's not meant to hold ground, it's meant to move over ground, and it can do that quite well.
Yeah, and I would argue that being the first mech with jump jets is kind of flashy.
Fair point.
Experimental TRO, they unveiled it by jumping over the hangar that it was developed in. That is the flashy kind of wow the brass thing you would expect from mad scientists.
That's a Tony Stark move.
Yep.
So it has a battle value of 314 and a point value of 11.
Yep, I've seen infantry with a higher point value than that, so kind of gives you an idea of how effective it is.
So the next model, or the refined model, was the WSP-1A.
As we've seen with moving from primitive tech to standard tech, you usually get a bump in your movement profile, and this Wasp does exactly that. It goes from 585 to 696, so over 90 kilometers an hour, and jumps over 180 meters.
And it also added some more weapons. So we retain the medium laser in the right arm, but now they have added an SRM2 to the left leg.
Leg weapons are really bizarre and rare in Battletech, so I'm not sure exactly how a leg weapon functions.
So the rules on leg-mounted weapons are that you don't get the torso twist, obviously, so that's always the front arc. And if the target is behind partial cover, then you don't get line of sight, basically, is boiling it down to its simplest terms.
Okay, so front arc, vehicle mounted, front mounted type deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So an SRM2 adding an additional 4 damage to its 5, almost doubling its output. Not too shabby.
Yeah, and then that the missiles, in a realistic sense, add a high explosive capability the laser's lacking, which, on a battlefield, you've got some enemy infantry inside a building. You can do a lot more damage than by firing a couple of missiles into the building than slicing around inside it with a laser.
And, of course, the production of this unit resolved almost all of the issues that had plagued the prototype.
Does that include the weak legs that the prototype had?
I believe so, because I don't see that as a design quirk for any of the other ones listed.
Okay.
Really not a good idea to put SRMs inside a weak leg, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I'm not a big fan of these 20-ton bug mechs because this guy's got 3 tons of armor, a single AC-20 or Gauss rifle round through the center torso will core it out one shot.
Yeah, there's not a lot of protection.
If you're playing with the HBS rules where your AC-10 does 12 points of damage, now that will core out the center torso in one shot. And they're really fragile. They don't have a lot of firepower. And this guy's only moving 9 hexes at a run. I mean, granted, he can jump 6, which means he should always be jumping. But yeah, it's
a little lackluster.
Yeah, I don't think you could pay me to drive one of these.
So this guy has a battle value of 384 and a point value of 14. So you get that little bump with everything becoming standard tech. And after that, we get the first house variant, the WSP-1L in 2799, a House Liao unit, L for Liao.
At least these early ones are consistent with that naming convention.
And
it drops the medium laser to upgrade the SRM to a SRM4.
Which is interesting to me because a lot of the other models for other houses, they drop the SRM because of supply chain issues. So that leads me to believe that the Confederation was producing a lot of SRMs.
Going back to a realism design philosophy, the missiles are going to be a lot more useful for a light mech that, might be shooting at other vehicles. You got 4 more chances for a motive crit against vehicles.
Infantry for sure.
Yep, killing infantry. You do a lot better with that high explosive SRMs or even load it with Inferno. There's more flexibility there.
In fact, that's kind of how the Confederation used it. What they would do is have a bunch of units with this model and they would just swap out the payload of the SRMs to be Infernos or smoke units or what have you, whatever you need, and they would coordinate together.
And in a way, it's kind of genius because by going to that larger SRM4, you can deliver a larger amount of payload because you've doubled the missiles you're shooting. And it's such a light, cheap mech that if you need a specialist mech that can deploy smoke for your infantry, to cover your movements in rough terrain, or light fires to deny an enemy flank or flush out enemy infantry, you've got all sorts of specialist ammo for the SRM, and it's, like I said, it's a cheap mech. You just, hey, we got a ton of these. Swap out the ammo to perform a different mission.
No modification required.
Yep.
So it has a battle value of 335 and a point value of 14.
Yeah, and then we get K for Kurita in 2818, so 19 years later. This guy, it's K for Kurita. You said they tend to drop the SRMs. So what do they do with this guy, Brent?
They add a machine gun, which is good for infantry.
Yeah, I think, again, we're seeing here, it's not a good scout mech. It's too slow, but it's cheap and plentiful. And so being able to throw it into a lot of different roles is really beneficial.
This one I'm not super excited about because it's got the medium laser, which I like. Love that. But machine guns I'm not super big on. They just don't feel very satisfying when I've played with them.
Yeah. Machine guns in Battletech really are a disconnect between military realism and the tabletop rules.
weapons, especially with scale, which we've talked about before.
And even ignoring that, Battletech machine guns are the most powerful in any setting because they're powerful enough to damage armor designed to stop AC-20s.
Mm-hmm.
Or Battletech armor is the weakest armor in any setting because it can be damaged by machine guns. I'm not sure which way it really goes, but like I said, it's a disconnect. Again, in military realism situation, you've got the medium laser to take on vehicles, and you've got a machine gun to take on infantry. You're lightly armored enough to where you don't have to worry about small arms fire. This is almost like a Humvee with a 50 cal on top or something like that.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You know, obviously it's not carrying anybody, but you can put a little more firepower up there and use it in a flexible role. So in game terms, medium laser and a machine gun, terrible combination.
Yeah.
On a slow mech.
So it's got a battle value of 376 and a point value of 14. This guy was followed by the 1D, D for Davian, and it takes out the SRMs, and again, due to supply chain issues. But it's going to replace it with 2 small lasers in the left torso and 1 flamer in the left leg, which is one way to get infantry off you, I guess.
Yeah. And again, this is just following what we've kind of talked about with the previous ones. That flamer is useful for anti-infantry work. The medium lasers, which it still has, is useful for dealing with, light-skinned vehicles. So are the small lasers. Again, this is just kind of a up-armored Humvee with a different turret mount on top designed to go do infantry support things.
Pretty much.
We're not really seeing any change in armor on any of these either.
No, they're all very lightly armored, which is disconcerting if I were the pilot.
Yeah, I mean, you can build a 50-ton hover tank with an ICE engine and an AC-10 that will wreck one of these for pretty much the same cost.
That being said, it could be worse because, there's some models of the Locust out there that are wafer thin armor.
Yeah.
So all of these models that we've talked about so far can sink 10 heat because they have 10 heat sinks. And that continues on with the 1W. The battle value of the 1D is 403 with a point value of 15. So the 1W, what does W stand for?
Well, in this case, it's Wolf's Dragoons.
Yep.
W is a tricky one because depending on the time frame,
it can be Word of Blake.
Yeah.
And those two don't want you to mix that up.
No, they will get very upset. This 1W, this is the first good Wasp that we've seen, and that's with a bit of a caveat. It strips out the medium laser and it strips out the SRM2 of the basic 1A, and it replaces all that spare tonnage, 3 tons, with 6 small lasers. 2 in the right torso, 2 in the left torso, 2 in the right arm. The reason I say this is good with a caveat is if you're playing MechWarrior Online, which gives kind of a more realistic feel to mech combat than the tabletop does because it's not turn-based and aiming and everything. It's not perfect, but it really gives you a feel for how the mechs would work in a more realistic way. 6 small lasers is a reasonable weapon to get in close, use that speed to flank behind the enemy forces and start hammering the back armor of some support mechs up close.
Yeah, 18 damage on the rear arc is going to do a lot.
Now, granted, in MechWarrior Online, you don't deal with random locations the way you do in tabletop, so the effect is amplified some more. But still, it's 18 points of damage in the rear arc, so it's nothing to sneeze at.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, everything else on this is the same. 696, 3 tons of armor. The Wolf model is 373 battle value and 12 points for Alpha Strike.
And after that, we get the WSP-1S. S for Steiner.
Yeah, and I'm going to hand this one over to you because I seem to have left my notes on it somewhere else.
Well, this guy is quite nice. I like it a lot. Came out in 3049, and it adds endosteel and ferrofibrous armor, and it upgrades the medium laser to a medium pulse laser. It has a flamer in the left torso and 2 small lasers in the right torso. So this feels just like a good upgrade of the W or the D. It's got the same amount of armor, and it has the same movement profile, but that medium pulse laser, I think, just really kicks it up a notch, because you get that modifier to hit, which you can't really argue with. You do lose a little bit of range, but I think that's a fair trade-off.
Yeah, especially if you're getting in close, it definitely helps. In a way, it gives you slightly longer range because your 4 hex range has a 0 modifier after you take in the pulse to account. So it's 1 hex better than the short range on the standard medium laser. But in order to do it, it looks like the armor's even worse on this guy. 2.5 tons.
I'm seeing it be consistent across the board with all the
Okay.
previous models. It just always feels like armor's been stripped off because there's so little there.
Yeah, and I think my older TRO doesn't say it has Pharaoh in the equipment section.
Yeah, this one is one of the ones that did just get an update with the new recognition guides. So it's got a battle value of 423 and a point value of 15. So jumping up there with the increased weapons, and the endo steel definitely helps out with the tonnage requirements there. And of course,
Yeah.
after this guy, we have a pivotal event that's going to change history, the invasion.
Clans. So our next one is the 3W, and this is one of the early clan invasion upgrades, maybe even just before the clan invasion. W stands for wolf this time. It doesn't have endo steel, no case, and only 2 tons of armor.
Well, it doesn't need case because it doesn't have anything with ammo.
It's basically an upgrade of their previous 1W, bumps 2 of the standard small lasers up to pulse lasers. And then, according to my TRO, it's got 2 small lasers in the left leg and 2 small lasers in the left torso.
Yep, that's what I got.
I just don't understand why you would go from having all of them mounted in the torso and then one in the arm to putting 2 of them in the leg and drastically reducing your firing arcs.
Yeah, it's possible they needed the critical slots for the armor, not sure, but it's a strange one. And one other thing on this, it does drop armor, so it just drops a point basically across the board. So already wafer thin armor, getting thinner, I don't like it, no.
Yeah, this is kind of a... Again, 2 small pulse lasers and 4 small lasers is not necessarily a bad loadout in MechWarrior Online, but this thing is so fragile, just absurd.
You sneeze on it, it'll fall apart. So it's got a battle value of 342 and a point value of 10, which is a drop in that point value. So obviously the rule set reflects its opinion on this mech, much like we do.
Yep. And then we've got the 3M. So the 3M is a straight upgrade. Medium pulse laser, SRM2, ferrofibrosis armor. Like I said, I feel like we've done this one already.
Well, this one has case.
Gotcha.
Which is, a good bit of tech that they rediscovered after the Helm memory core was found.
So, I mean, that's really all it is it's got case.
It's got case, it's got the medium pulse laser. It also drops a little bit of armor. You got 5 on the sides. But I guess the interesting thing lore-wise is this thing has a Irian ear communication systems, and that basically means it can do long-range communication uplinks as well as satellite uplink. So that's pretty useful for a reconnaissance unit.
Yeah. It's too bad it's still only 696, which is very heavy light, a 35-tonner with firepower, or it's a very light medium.
So it's got a battle value of 394 and a point value of 12. After that, we get the next version from the Capellans, the WSP-3L in 3067. It's got endo steel and stealth armor. It also adds extra protection to its joints. This model also moves all the jump jets into the torso, which ended up being a cost-saving measure. They chose to use a unused stockpile of single heat sinks instead of the double heat sinks because we got warehouses of them. They're free. And this unit was developed in conjunction with House Liao and the Word of Blake. So, it's got a bit of a reputation.
Uh-oh.
The battle value is going to be 534 and the point value is going to be 20.
Yeah, I see what you mean by reputation. Sarna does not agree with that battle value.
Oh, what does it say there?
610 for BB.
And what does Master Unit List say?
534.
Again, keeping with the tradition.
Yep, there must have been some rework done after this was published. It's good to note that this is one of the unseen or reseen, sometimes called new scene as well, artwork for the Wasp. So it looks a little bit different, moves away from that original unseen art.
Definitely a different style.
Yeah, and this guy's got medium laser still, bumps it up to an ER, has a Guardian ECM suit for that stealth armor to work, and a one-shot rocket launcher 10 to give it a little bit of extra punch when you need to smack somebody in the face and run away.
Just get you out of a pinch.
Yep. And then since this is the new art or newer art, it's also got a full head ejection system, which is a pretty sweet setup where instead of the canopy exploding outwards and then you getting flung up through it in your ejection seat, the whole head comes off and you ride it down kind of as an escape pod.
Definitely what you would prefer on a, orbital combat field or, vacuum field.
Yeah, and I think in any situation, because, if you've seen Top Gun, ejecting can be a dangerous prospect. Now you don't have to worry about bits of the canopy killing you as you come out.
Yeah, that is not an experience I ever want to have, having to eject out of anything like that.
Well, given the rather light armor on this guy, that's something that's definitely a possibility. Although they did give it enough armor that it has more armor than I think any variant we've seen up till now.
I believe
by
that
like
is
1
correct.
point in each location.
Yeah, not a drastic increase, but you know what? I'll take any more you can give me.
Yes. And then the Steiners jumped on the modernization program as well with the 3S. Again, new art, so it's got that full head ejection system. This one, definite bump up in the firepower. It's got 2 ER medium lasers, a Guardian ECM suite, and a TAG, target acquisition gear. Have we talked about TAG previously?
We have talked about TAG.
Okay.
Not super in depth, but, the basics of you fire this in order to give better data on your missiles.
Yeah, it's a laser. Basically, it allows for laser guided munitions, like a laser guided bomb. This guy definitely feels like an upgrade to me. Still got that 696 movement profile, but the 2 ER medium lasers, the TAG, and the ECM, this feels a lot more kind of spec ops, skirmisher.
Yeah. Or a spotter.
Yep.
Less of a scout and more of a combined arms unit.
Yeah.
So normally I'm all about having as many heat sinks as possible, but this guy, it's got the double heat sinks, and it's got 10 of them. So it sinks 20 heat. Even with an alpha strike and a jump, you're only generating 13. That's 3 heat sinks you could easily just drop and either add armor or upgrade its mobility.
Well, okay, you have to remember that you don't automatically get 10 in your
Oh right, they're the integrated ones.
Yeah, so
Right.
Fusion engines, every mech has to have 10 heat sinks default. If a fusion engine is a certain tonnage or rating, it can have all of those in the engine itself. If it's a lower rating, then some of those heat sinks have to be outside the engine. If it's a higher rating, you can occasionally get extra heat sinks in the engine to save space.
This is all in the deep cut rules of building a mech from scratch and things like that.
Yeah, which all of these do follow.
Just means sadly you can't drop those heat sinks.
Yeah, and don't forget you got to add your heat for jumping to that calculation.
I did. 3.
No, they're not advanced jump jets. So it's minimum 3, and then it's 1 heat for every hex. So 3 to 6.
3 to 6. Yeah, no, all right, that's fair. So then you're looking at 16 as a max.
Yeah.
No, that's fair then, I guess.
If you only had the 10 single heat sinks, if you did a full jump, you'd only be able to shoot 1 and be heat neutral. Shoot 2 and you'd be up to 6 on your heat scale.
This guy's going to have a battle value of 595 and a point value of 15.
Yeah, and then we're going to jump out to the Periphery, it looks like. For the Trinity Alliance's Wasp 7 MAF, which is an interesting nomenclature for it because MAF stands for Magistracy Armed Forces, but it was actually produced by all 3 members of the Trinity Alliance, the Magistracy, the Capellans, and the Taurians. And I have to say, I like this one. This is the best one we've seen.
I can't imagine why.
It is expensive, though. Well, it has an MML5 and an ER medium laser.
It also upgrades its movement profile.
Yes, and that MML is great. I'd have been happy with an MML3 and maybe get rid of the XL gyro, but this is a light mech. Having the ability to hit people at long range with those LRMs is really nice, but then being able to punch harder with SRMs up close is incredibly important.
And an SRM-5 is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, and then you've also still got that ER medium laser. In order to get all this, though, you do lose some of your durability. Not that these mechs had much to begin with, because it has an XL engine. It has an XL gyro, and its armor goes back to basically the original Wasps.
So not the lowest we've seen, but not the highest. But with the XL fusion engine in the side torsos, it makes it much more fragile.
But you're offsetting that because your movement is now 8-12-8. And in game terms, that means you've gone from a 9, movement profile of 9, which is if you can go in a straight line, you get a +3 for moving 7 hexes. This you can now get up to a +4 if you move more than 10 hexes. And then you've got that jump of 8, which is where it really helps because now you've got movement of 7 giving you a 3, jump giving you a 4. So if you jump, you're mathematically ahead of your opponent on targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So loses a lot of survivability by going back to that original Wasp 1 armor profile and then adding an XL engine on top of that and an XL gyro. But your movement modifier has gone up drastically, so you're less likely to get hit.
And it's got those double heat sinks, so it can easily vent any of the heat generated by the jump jets and weapons. If you're not running in a straight line, you're almost always going to be jumping that 8.
Yeah, because that's 8 heat from jumping, 5 from the ER medium lasers, 13, and then 3 from the MML. Again, you're sitting at 16 heat. So pro tip, if you're running a Wasp 7 MAF, jump.
Jump around. So it's got a battle value of 488 and a point value of 19. After that, we get the WSP-8T from the Confederation and the Magistry of Canopus, produced in 3075. This model has a small cockpit, and overall, most of the comfort features one would have in a mech have been stripped out to make it easy to produce because, Jihad. So yeah, they were just pumping these out as quickly as possible. It's got an MML3, so you're still happy, right?
Yep, it's very flexible. It's probably more in line with what this mech really wants as a 20-ton mech. It did exactly what I was suggesting with the 7 MAF. Drop that gyro from an XL down to a standard, improving your survivability a little bit.
Still got that XL fusion, though. But it needs that extra weight because it's got a light PPC. So it has that nice long-range punch now.
Yep, moves the movement profile back down to 696, saves some tonnage there as well. Yeah, it's a light mech, and that light PPC, the MML3, let it really skirmish at longer ranges. Kind of going back to the roots as a infantry support mech, kind of that Humvee with a heavy weapon on top idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough with these light mechs. In game terms, they're pretty terrible, especially these slower 696 ones. They're just so easy to hit. This guy does have an extra half ton of armor, so he's a little bit more survivable than some of the others.
Adding a point or two is not going to do much when you're facing down something that doubles your tonnage.
Yeah, anything with a PPC or an AC-10 can blow off any of your limbs in a single shot, and you're not as agile as that 7 MAF to avoid those shots. So that's rough.
But with the extended ranges you get with the LRMs and the light PPC, at least you can try and keep some distance. You know, stay out of range of things like AC-20s.
Or AC-10s. Yeah, I mean, it's a light mech. So, for a 20-tonner, a light PPC and an MML3 is solid.
Yeah. This, of course, also has the full head ejection system as well. Something we're going to see pretty much on all of them, I think, from here on out. Unless it's noted to have not that.
It's one of those things in mech design rules. You don't pay anything extra for the full head ejection system. You don't pay extra tonnage. You don't pay extra space. So there's really no reason not to take it.
In 3082, produced by the Outer Worlds Alliance, we have the WSP-3A, and it's got improved jump jets and a full head ejection system with a battle value of 401 and a point value of 13. It's got a medium pulse laser in the right arm, and that's it. But of course, with the improved jump jets, it's got a movement profile of 588.
That improved jump jets and that bumping up from 6 jump to 8 jump is huge. We talked about what that 8 jump does for you with the 7 MAF, and because they're improved jump jets, you're generating half the heat, still a minimum of 3. So jumping his full 8, he only generates 4 heat. So with that medium pulse laser of 4 heat, this 3A can jump 8, fire its medium pulse, and And even though it only has single heat sinks, it still won't overheat at all.
Still cool as a cucumber.
Yep, and it's got that larger armor profile, but again, it goes back to the XL Fusion and the XL Gyro.
And of course the Endo Steel.
But that XL Fusion, that XL Gyro are really what worry me because, that makes you a lot more vulnerable. But again, you're jumping 8, so at least you've got that going for you.
After the 3A, we have the 3P, and this is a Dark Age variant that came out in 3086, and of course it also has the full head ejection system. It's got a ER medium laser in the right arm and a rocket launcher 10 in the right torso. Still has the single heat sinks and has a movement profile of 7-11-7, so bumping up that speed.
Which is always good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that P, does it stand for Periphery, or who's building this guy?
Just has it listed as a Dark Age variant, and it's only listed in the new tech, new upgrades 3145.
Oh, I can answer that question then.
Please do enlighten me.
Yep, Periphery variant features the Wasp 3L weaponry and increased speed. That's all it says for it. So it is a Periphery variant, hence the P. There's factories in Canopus, the Concordat, and the Outworlds Alliance that all produce Wasps, so it could be all of them easily enough. My guess is it would be the way the 3145 new tech says it's a 3L armament. Makes me think it's probably Taurians and Magistracy because of the Trinity Alliance that the 3L was a part of.
I mean, they also like their rocket launchers.
Yep.
So it's got a battle value of a 537 and a point value of 19.
That extra movement really helps bump it up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a light mech's armor is its movement.
Yeah, it really is. And after this, we go to the Land of the Dragon for the Wasp 3K.
In 3110.
This one also comes from TRO 3145, new tech, new upgrades. Lexitech Industries of Hun Ho, fantastic planet name there, started production of the Wasp 3K in 3111 to provide the DCMS with a new Garrison mech to deter light raiding. Instead of SRMs, it is equipped with a small MRM rack.
And by small, you mean 10.
Yes, the smallest you can get.
And of course, it just keeps the medium laser. It doesn't give it a pulse or an extended, but the MRM has a long range of 15, so you don't really need that bump.
Yeah, and if you're bumping up from that 1K with the SRM-4, the SRM-4 has a potential of 8 damage if all 4 missiles hit. The MRM-10 has a potential of 10 damage if all 10 missiles hit. So potential bump in firepower. You do have a bit of an accuracy penalty with MRMs, but you do have that significantly longer range. Kind of offsets, I think.
And it doesn't bump up the movement profile at all, unfortunately. We're looking at 696, which is disappointing with what we've seen recently.
Yeah, but I mean, it straight up says it's a Garrison mech designed to deter light raiding. I'm thinking a bunch of pirates with Toyota Hilux and a machine gun coming in to stock up on supplies and prisoners, and an MRM-10 is more than enough to blow up a few technicals and maybe an industrial mech.
It's just, once you get that taste of the speed, you just always want to go fast,
Feel the need for speed.
So it's got an XL engine, which is something we don't like to see, especially with wafer-thin armor, but, that's how it's able to offset the tonnage of that MRM-10. It's also just got single heat sinks, because, of course, Garrison unit.
Yep. I mean, how much heat is that MRM-10 really putting out?
If you're alpha striking, you're looking at 7.
7 heat for an MRM-10?
Plus the medium laser of 3. So 4 for the MRM-10, plus 3, 7.
Oh, so that's something my note here didn't say, because I thought it was a straight upgrade from the 1K, which drops the medium laser.
Nope, it does have a medium laser in the right arm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So if you're pressed, you'll run a little hot maybe, but it should be able to handle most things.
Yeah, okay.
It's got a battle value of 477 and a point value of 17.
Well, according to Master Unit List, that's the last Wasp on our list.
Well, it's the last Wasp on Master Unit List. It's not the last Wasp on our lists. We actually have 3 more, because with the new recognition guides coming out, we've gotten 3 hot off the press models that we can talk to you about.
All hail the Ilklon.
World exclusives! And by world exclusives, I mean you can go and buy this from the digital store. So the first model we have is the WSP-4W, and there aren't any really notes on this other than it's a Wolf Dragoons model, and it increased the armor after the 3W was shown to have insufficient armor.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, so it does drop a little bit of weaponry, so it's got 2 small pulse lasers in the left leg, an ER medium laser in the right arm, and an ER medium laser in the left torso. So you get 2 mediums now, and you keep those small pulses, but they've been shifted to the leg, which again is a strange position for those.
Well, there's the same spot on the 3W, so...
Oh, I thought they were in the left torso.
Well, the 3W had 2 in the left torso as well. Okay, so it moves the pulse lasers, because yeah, the 3W has 2 small lasers in the left leg that were upgraded to pulse lasers for the 4W.
Mm-hmm.
And then the left torso and right arm weapons, 2 small lasers and 2 small pulse lasers, respectively, get replaced with the ER mediums.
Yeah, so you get a decent range on that with those ERs, and the small pulse lasers gives you some punch right up close. It's got a movement profile of 696, so not reinventing the wheel with its movement profile, keeping that through line for this model. It's got the ferrofibrous armor, of course, and double heat sinks, so it can handle that heat buildup pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's got a battle value of 551, and we don't have a point value because that would be on master unit list where it's not listed yet. So after that, we have the WSP-5A. Again, we have no idea when it came out, and it's got a battle value of 517. And this one has even less about it written, other than it exists. But it does have a streak too, which is the first time we've seen streak in this mech.
Actually, we can tell you it came out sometime after 3080 and sometime before 3150.
So we got a window.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, Brent, but they've now officially just moved to logos for the eras, and you'll see them on master unit list. It'll be the little era logo.
Oh, okay.
The 5A is showing the Dark Ages Republic era logo.
Well, there you go. I learned something new. Yeah, so it's got that streak 2 in the left leg, and it's got the ER medium laser in the right arm, and it's got a battle value of 517, like I said. Got standard armor, but it does have a faster movement of 8-12-8. So that's nice to see.
Bumps back up to the XL Fusion and XL Gyro, though.
And it does also add a case 2.
Which case 2 is what case was supposed to be. Does a better job of protecting the mech warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I could look it up. I actually have TAC Ops right here. Don't know why TAC Ops is on my desk, but it is. All right, so case 2 is the upgraded case. Standard case, normally when your ammo goes off, you apply all the damage to that location, and then you stop no damage transfers further. So you will lose whatever torso that ammo explosion occurred in. Case 2, on the other hand, it's 1 ton instead of a half ton, but it will only take 1 point of internal damage to that location instead of all the damage from that. So for people who complain about their 500 rounds of machine gun ammo turning their mech into a nuclear bomb, grab some case 2, because then that 500 rounds of machine gun ammo will do 1 point of damage instead of a ton.
So the final unit we're going to talk about today is the Wasp C, and this is a Clan Wolf Empire model. This was seen on an engagement between the new Theta Galaxy when they raided the Larian Commonwealth, and they faced off against the 8th Donegal Guard on Caledonia. Improved weapons systems in them allowed them to cut through from being cut off and push off to their dropships, allowing them to escape. It's got a battle value of 755, and this has a streak SRM2 in the right leg, but it's a single shot, and it's clan. And then in the right arm, it's got an ER large laser, and also clan. So that right arm just has got the large laser, and it points it at something and shoots, and that's what it's doing today.
Have I mentioned how the clans cheat?
Once or twice.
This is interesting because this is one of the first we've seen of the new C variants. We haven't touched on the 2 Cs, which older players will be very used to because they're clan reimaginings of the classic designs, but they'll often be a completely new design in their own right.
Or previous features are more exaggerated.
Yeah, and the tonnage will shift.
I'm thinking of the Highlander and the Highlander 2C. In the Highlander, it's just got kind of a barrel for an arm, but in the 2C, it's just got a Honk and Gauss rifle, and it's still got that very boxy, cowled cockpit head in both versions, you know?
Yeah, or like I was thinking the Shadowhawk 2C, which goes down to like 40 tons from the standard 55. So that's that's what the 2Cs are. Yeah, sorry, Shadowhawk 2C is a 45 tonner versus the Shadowhawk's 55 tons. So that's what the 2Cs are. They're reimaginings of classic unseen designs. The C variants, on the other hand, are basically a straight port, but with clan tech instead. So that's why, when you're running a clan fusion engine, well, I guess fusion engine and gyro don't matter. When you're running clan endosteel and clan ferrofibrous and clan ER large laser, that's a lot less tonnage. You can do a lot more with.
Basically, the Cs are like, okay, we have this factory. We're just going to replace all the manufacturing with it now makes clan tech. Go.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how widespread this becomes moving forward into the Ill Clan era. I would expect pretty much everything to get a C variant and possibly multiple C variants as time goes on and they're trying to move people away from mixed tech and having to use some Intersphere, some clan tech.
Just bring everything into a standard. So that's what we have for the models of the Wasp, and after that we have our notable pilots. The first one we have is Mech Warrior Ross Malone. Ross serves with the Simon's Cutthroats, the remnants of a Free World League regiment that formed a mercenary unit that works for the Draconis Combine. They gain notoriety and prestige there. Ross is an accomplished tracker who uses his Wasp that's named Night Shroud to scout and lay traps for opposing units. He's refused multiple promotions on numerous occasions, stating that he wishes to use his ability in the field, and I mean, you could still be a Lance Commander and be in the field. He kind of reads as a sociopath to me.
I mean, yes and no. I think he's, in a realistic sense, once you move up to Lance Commander, you're gonna have a lot more paperwork and you're gonna have people to manage. So he's not gonna be as free to just wander off into the woods to scout.
Do his thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of my point.
I mean, if you don't want to deal with the responsibility, like you don't want to have people's lives in your hands as a leader.
Oh, yeah. Like, I can't fault anyone for that.
But in the military, you can't say, hey, I'm not comfortable with leading these guys. I'm afraid I'll get them killed. Because then your upper management goes, so you don't have confidence in your skills. Why should we? But saying, nah, I really don't want to deal with paperwork because that would cut in on my killing the bad guys time. That goes over a lot better with your superiors when you turn down a promotion.
Fair enough. It also reads a little differently.
I mean, a little bit, but, when you're running for a unit called Simonson's Cutthroats, do you really expect everybody to be choir boys?
Fair point. So who do you have on your list next?
I have somebody with a fake Hawaii driver's license.
What?
Captain Carver McCool.
Oh.
I mean,
That's a last name.
Yeah. I cannot imagine him being straight out of boot camp or OCS and trying to go to a bar and getting carded as McCool.
Yeah, where's your buddy McLovin?
Yeah. Rare is the officer who commands from a Wasp, but McCool, too cool for school, does exactly that. He leads a recon company for House Liao, known as the Red Lancers. He's basically notable because after the Federated Commonwealth ate half of the Capellan Confederation, Maximilian Liao went full institution, and Romano was running the rest of the country into the ground. He basically refused to give up and give in to the sense of defeatism, and basically
I read that as he doubled down on nationalism.
Yeah, pretty much, to the point where he was beating up anybody who was succumbing to defeatism.
In his unit or others.
Yeah, I think this guy has a career at Maskarovka.
So after that, we have Mech Warrior Gerald, or is it Gerald or Gerald?
I don't know. We'd have to ask him. I think it can be pronounced either way.
Well, we'll go with Mech Warrior Gerald. Warrior for Clan Snow Raven. He piloted a 3A, and that was the first time it was seen. It was used to fight in a trial of grievance against Star Commander Reginald, and he piloted it with great expertise and accuracy, earning him a bunch of honor from the duel, considering he piloted a, air quotes here, spheroid mech by clan standards.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a spheroid mech. It's not even mixed tech, but he was able to beat a Baboon by using his Wasp's mobility, especially those jump jets. It's interesting. This is a Outworlds Alliance Wasp and a Clan Snow Raven pilot, which hints at the fusion of those two political entities into the Raven Alliance.
But that was still a couple years out, I believe.
Yeah, but you can already see how
they're starting to integrate.
Yep.
Yeah, it absolutely is a spheroid, like it's an inner sphere mech, but, it has that stigma, so, that's why he got that notoriety.
And I don't even know if it's notoriety. He's like, look, I'm so badass. I mean, this is the Clan version of I can kick your ass with my hands tied behind my back.
Yeah.
I can drive a spheroid battle mech and still beat you. The TRO does make an interesting note here that we didn't touch on when we were talking about the 3A. You've got all that jumping, and jumping gives you a +3 to your own targeting numbers. But then he's got the pulse laser, which is a -2. So his cumulative penalty for jumping and shooting is a +1.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got that 8 jump. So he's giving his opponent a +4 penalty and taking a +1 himself.
Which is not bad.
No, that is exactly the kind of math you want to be doing when you're playing classic Battletech.
And again, a scout mech using its mobility as its armor.
Although the Baboon is a Clan scout mech, so that's kind of cancels out there, I think.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TRO Primitives Volume 2, TRO 3039 Record Sheets, 3039 Unabridged, TRO Project Phoenix, 3085 Project Phoenix Unabridged, Record Sheets 3145 New Tech New Upgrades, and Ill Clan Recognition Guide Volume 4.
And then I read the Case 2 rules out of Tactical Operations.
Shoutouts to the Sarna community and the Wolfnet community. We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?